we're grateful for this government that we have and for our opportunity to be heard. And please help us to always look for opportunities to serve those around us and to help us to be more like thee. And we love thee and we say these things in the name of thy son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay, item 3.1 is approval of minutes of our regular meeting that was on January 26, 2022. Everyone have a chance to go over those minutes? Any issues or questions? I need a motion.
I move we approve our minutes from our previous meeting.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Blair, can you unmute yourself? Or you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Minutes were approved. Public forum. This is an opportunity for those in the audience or online to talk to us about something that is not on the agenda. If it's on the agenda, I see no one stand up, so we'll move on. Item 5. Okay, I have one. When you come to the microphone, please state your name and limit your comments to approximately 3 minutes at the most.
Greg Calloway.
Okay.
I'd like to see a zoning ordinance on your park about how many tame ducks there can be.
Okay, thank you.
Shouldn't be more than about a dozen.
Okay, thank you. Item 5.1 is a public hearing. This is a request for Tyler Horan to change the zoning of Utah County parcel 292348. And this is located at approximately 1130 South, 1950 West. The applicant is requesting an RMF 10 residential multifamily zoning designation. The property is currently zoned A5H. And Chris will give us some words on that.
Good evening, Commish. This will look a little familiar, and I will explain why this request looks familiar here in a second. So let me minimize my screen so you can see all my tags. There we go. So this request is for 12.09 acres of land to be changed from A5H to RMF 10. I minimized the screen thing on here. I don't know why it's not on the share, so sorry about that. But let me see if I can. Oh, no, that's what's happening. So
okay.
1140 South, 1950 West. This was originally brought to you back in July of last year. And at the time, this parcel and the one immediately next to it were one parcel. So because it was two different density designations on the South Meadows plan and the request was for one zoning designation, you remanded it because only half of the parcel matched. So since then, the applicant has subdivided the parcel, and now the request is just for the eastern half, which was the half last time that was 10 units per acre in the South Meadows plan. So with that, this is the adjacent zoning. So see, you can see my cursor. I don't know why everything's frozen on there and not on here, but anyway. All the parcels around are zoned A5H. There is some RMF 10 in the area. As far as utilities are concerned, culinary goes to just east of the subject property, but no other utilities do. As far as how this fits with the general plan, it fits just the way it did last time this was brought to you in July. As you can see, there is open space along the creek. So there is a little flexibility when it comes to the relationship between the division of the parcels and where exactly those density designations change. So, and with that said, I spoke with engineering staff to make sure that they didn't have any concerns with the discrepancy between the two. And they said that any impacts would be negligible. So with that, let me show you the aerial that will show where the creek is and where the new parcel division is. So as you can see, the eastern parcel actually crosses onto the west side of the creek just a little, but that's the division and that's the South Meadows plan for that area. That's the end of my slideshow. Do you have any questions for me? Do you want me to leave that aerial up or any of the other maps?
Probably leave the aerial up is
Okay.
fine. Yeah, let's leave that up. So is the petitioner here?
They are, yeah.
Would they like to speak? I don't know where they are. Yeah, okay.
Tyler Horan and Chris did a great job. Really, like I said, we brought this back in July, and you remember we just had the request to change the entire parcel to RMF 10. Since then, we split it right there and are just asking for the east side to be RMF 10. The west side, we haven't been able to figure out what zone to ask for yet, basically. So we're just leaving that in the holding zone for now and trying to move forward with the east side. So,
Okay, any questions for Mr. Haran?
No, I just wondered if that still meets the density out there for the master plan.
Yeah, and it matches the master plan. So,
okay, thank you.
thanks. Okay, this is a public hearing, so we'll need a motion to open a public hearing.
I move we open public hearing.
Second?
I have a motion and a second, all by in favor, yes?
Yes.
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 Any opposed? There's none. Okay, this is an opportunity for anyone in the public to talk to us about this item. If you do, come to the microphone, state your name, and limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Seeing none, I move we close the
Motion to
public.
close public hearing?
Yep.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor by yes?
Yes.
Yes. Commission discussion.
I think it resolved the issues we had last time of
It
did all RMF 10. So I think it follows the general plan and works.
It did exactly what we asked them to do. So I don't see any issues with it. Okay. Motion to recommend, then I would say.
I would make a motion. We recommend city council approve the zone change for item 5.1, seeing as it fits the general plan and the intended use of the area.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor by yes?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Item 5.2 is a review and recommendation. This is a request by Rog McNeil to annex Utah County parcels 30, 84, 67, 68, and 65. This is located at approximately 3,600 west and 12,240 south. Those are Utah County coordinates, not city coordinates. The annexation is for 9.27 acres, and the applicant is requesting an R15 or R115 zoning upon annexation. And Chris will give us some words again.
So I know that everybody's here for the staff reports and training after this, but please just bear with me as we get through this item. Give me 30 days. Okay, so the story so far, let me tell you. 3 parcels are included in the annexation request. It's 9.27 acres total. So this was accepted for further review back in August. During the protest period for this annexation, there were several protests filed. And when that happens, it goes to the county's boundary commission. And so on November 8th, the county had their public hearing. Well, the boundary commission had their public hearing and ultimately decided to let the city make the final decision on the annexation. So with that, there's also a petition from nearby property owners that is requesting that the city stops annexing land in this area until a formal land use study has been conducted for the Spring Lake area and vicinity. So these are the parcels. So that third parcel is just the sliver that you see on the east side. It's pretty negligible, but the 2 big ones that you see, that's why you're seeing 2 instead of what ought to look like 3, but that's the story there. Here's the annexation plat itself. As you can see, same parcels from the last slide. So with the general plan, there are a few ways to interpret the highest and best use in this area, and I'm going to run through them. So as you know, the general plan at its core is designed to guide growth in Payson strategically. And I mean, it says in the name at a general level. Citywide, what are we looking at as far as our goals for the city in the next 10, 15 years? And so with that, I'll read it verbatim from the plan itself. The Imagine Payson general plan will position Payson as a thriving and welcoming community, complete with high quality neighborhoods, easy access to necessary services, and a strong sense of place. So if the plan is being applied the way it's intended, it will contribute to all of those outcomes. And if the plan is not being applied the way it's intended, it won't. With that said, one component of the plan is the future land use map, where throughout Payson on a citywide level, density is delineated, but with that, there is some wiggle room in that density that's delineated on the future land use map. So this area in that map is designated as low density residential, which is 2 to 5 net units per acre. The request upon annexation is an assignment of R115 zoning, which is 15,000 square foot minimum lots, which would fall within that range. So as with any development proposal, it's important to look at the surrounding area and look at some of the characteristics of that area. Immediately north of the current annexation proposal is the JT Valley annexation that was annexed in 2020. When that was annexed and when the annexation agreement was created, there was an intent to create a transition zone between the more dense lots up in Springside Meadows and the larger lots in Spring Lake, because you've got the JT Valley annexation, you've got the current proposal, and then you have the other side of the road where the actual lake is. So yeah, this is all meant to be an incremental transition zone. As you head south, it should be getting less dense. And so a little more detail about the petition from surrounding property owners. Their request and the factors that they're looking at for wanting to stop annexation center around the general plan as well. And so this is part of the complication with the general plan being so general, but this is also where your role as an advisory board comes in, because we are looking for advice on how to interpret all of the elements of the general plan with regard to this area in this proposal. So the overarching theme of the petition is the residents in the area want to see a formal land use plan created for that area. They want to take the goals and the more general parameters of the general plan, zero in on the area and apply those locally so that it can be as accurate as possible. So for those in the audience, and I guess for you as well, these are legislative requests. And the difference between the legislative and administrative request is it doesn't matter how many boxes are checked. A legislative request is your decision to approve or deny. With something like a subdivision, if it meets all of the city's parameters, you're kind of bound and you have to accept it if they check the boxes. With annexation and with zone changes and with other legislative changes, it's up to you. So I wanted to talk a little bit about potential impacts of any of the decisions that you could make tonight. So if you were to approve the annexation and if you were to approve the zoning that has been requested, that would allow lots as small as 15,000 square feet in this area. And so if the zoning request is concurrent with the annexation, the next request would be subdivision, which is administrative. So in other words, if you assign R115 zoning and that land is vested with the right to develop down to a 15,000 square foot lot, that's what we'd be looking at when we're reviewing a subdivision on this property. It wouldn't be like some of the subdivisions and zone changes that we do concurrently where you have a little bit of negotiating power because there's a legislative change tied to it. This is the legislative part of that process. The administrative part of that process will come upon subdivision. So there are several things to consider, and I'm going to run through all of them. So again, as with any development, impacts on surrounding property owners ought to be looked at. The petition that I've referred to was signed by over 1,000 people, and I think that should be a significant part of whichever decision you decide to make tonight, is reviewing what those people have to say and why. Compatibility with the general plan. Like I said, because the general plan is so general, there are a few different angles to approach this. It does fall within the designation on the future land use map. However, that is just one page of a plan that's over 100 pages long. So I would consider that, but I would also consider the overarching goals of the plan that I referred to a few slides ago. One of the other potential outcomes, if this stays in the county, the current county designation for zoning would allow them to, in a planned subdivision, go down to 20,000 square foot lots versus the 15,000 minimum square foot lots that are being requested as part of the annexation request. And so I would in your decision, ask yourselves, is this the right time for this property to be annexed? And if it is, what would we want to include in the annexation agreement to make sure the city's bases are covered as that's brought into city limits? So, potential recommendations. You could approve the request as is. You could approve the annexation, approve the request of R115 zoning, and that would grant the applicant or whoever develops that land the vested right to divide it down to 15,000 square foot lots. You could also approve the annexation, but request a different zoning designation when it's brought in. That's another option. You may also look at denying the annexation request where the land is not undevelopable. If you do that, it would just have to be developed within the county under that 20,000 minimum. Whichever recommendation you choose, that will be a big factor in the final decision made by the city council. They are having a work session next week on this annexation, and your input is appreciated and will be included in the discussion there. And as with any recommendation, we ask that it's supported by findings of fact. So that is the last slide. I'm happy to take any questions.
And again, let me just clarify, Planning Commission, we appreciate your role in this tonight. And for your clarification and for everybody else's clarification, tonight, the Planning Commission's role in this is to review the application and to make a recommendation. The City Council is the land use authority in this. They're not making a decision tonight. They're making a recommendation to the City Council. Okay.
Okay, is the applicant here?
Yes.
Would you like to say something before we?
Can I go after public hearing?
There's no public hearing tonight. I am going to give the public, since they're here, an opportunity to say something, but only for just a few minutes, because I don't want to go on forever. There's too many people here to go on forever. So I am going to give them an opportunity. So I think it'd probably be best if you did it now.
Yeah, this is probably your time.
Okay.
So.
My name is Rob McNeil. I'm the applicant. You know, I understand that change is hard. You know, I mean, it's one thing that is constant in our life, but it's happening, you know, and we want to make the very best decisions as we make those changes. I think that this subdivision could be one of the nicest subdivisions on this side of Payson City. You know, with the amenities of the lake and the trail around it and the view of the mountains and just its vicinity to everything. It's a great place for an upper end subdivision to go in. And as I mentioned in the general plan, that it is 2 to 5 units per acre. And so with the overall acreage that I have, it's 20.66 acres, I believe. And I've ended up with 42 lots. So I am just over 2 units per acre with the layout that I have, 2.03 units. So I am on the very, very low end of what's allowed in this area. And so, anyways, we've made changes. When I originally came in, under 12,000 square, right at 12,000 square foot lots with the DRC. And with their recommendation and further discussion, we increased it to 15,000 square foot lots to make it third acres. And so that's what the current plan shows is 15,000 square foot lots. And we end up with 42 lots. So we're right at 2 units per acre. We're at the bottom end. I'm open to any questions that you might have as well.
Do we have any questions for Mr. McNeil?
Have you looked at utilities for said subdivision out there as far as flow, sewer flow?
Yeah, we have. Yep, we're very aware of what needs to happen with utilities, with making the water loop, with the sewer, everything else. We've looked at it extensively through engineering.
Is there a flowable line from that property to sewer?
It'll be a lift station.
It'll be a lift station.
There'll be a lift
Yep.
station.
So we'll gravity feed down to the very south end near 12240 South. And then we'll use a lift station up to the current Springside Meadows. Yep.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. McNeil? Okay, thank you.
Okay, you bet.
As I indicated, I am going to give the public, since there's a bunch of you here, a chance to speak, but I'd like to know kind of where we're at on who's here. So is there anybody here that is for this proposed annexation in the room? How about online?
Are you asking if they're here for the item or if they're in favor?
In favor of the item. Okay, so we only have one side here represented, it sounds like. So maybe if we pick 2 or 3 of the most eloquent. to give us a statement or two, and again, state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes or less.
While the cripple is getting out, I just want to.
Okay, state your name for the record, please.
Brenda Warner.
Okay.
I am 1 house away from the proposed road that will come out onto the highway of this subdivision.
So you're east or west of this?
I am south. Well, I'm southwest of the
Southwest, okay.
subdivision. Yes. As Mr. McNeil so eloquently put it, what a nice subdivision it would be. Mind you, where they're talking about the lift station, the poop plant on the Trout Farm Road, currently there is 1 home there, 1. And in the proposed plot map, there are 9 homes there with the subdivision. So as Spring Lake people, that's the beautification that we're seeing to our community. He's got 40 something homes in there. That's 80 vehicles. That's how many hundreds of people accessing the lake. Our little community is doomed. It will never be the same if we allow a subdivision of that impact. And that needs to be considered and why we're all here. Okay. It's drastically changing our community.
Okay, thank you. We'll let the man with the crutches come on up. So.
Thank you, Mark.
it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we could have done that. We could have just brought the microphone. Oh, well,
No,
sorry.
it's more impactful if I have to. I think the reason I'm up here is because I'm a cripple and there's like everybody wants a little sympathy or something.
Okay.
No,
Please state your name for the
my
record.
name is Jason Knapp. So I live on the west end of 12240. And
near the highway, right? Yes.
No, on the corner of 12240 and Spring Lake Road.
Right. Yeah. Just off Spring Lake Road there.
Yes, that's right. So I would first of all thank Chris for his representation. Did a fantastic job. And as you can tell by the number of people that are here, and now we're over 1,250 signatures on the petition, there are a lot of people who care deeply about the Spring Lake area. I think it is hopefully you all are familiar with the area and know what a beautiful gem it is. I think most everybody would agree with Mr. Is it McNeil, I think? Thank you. That growth is inevitable. I own an 8-acre piece on just immediately to the west of the proposed annexation. The bordering 8 acres, I own that. And then another 5 acres on the east side of the other parcel that's going to be part of the development. So I get it that I would love to have my own children someday be able to live in the area. So I don't think that most people dispute that change is coming. The request of the community is that we do it in a thoughtful way that considers the resources of Spring Lake, considers the opportunities of Spring Lake, and considers all elements of the general plan. I hope you had an opportunity to read the letter that we put together, but there's much more to the general plan than just the map. There are proposed trails, there are open spaces, there's considerations of agricultural use in the area. There are wetlands and very sensitive areas in the area. And again, the request is that we not to say no to future development, but that we pump the brakes long enough to do an appropriate study of the area and come up with a plan that is worthy of such a wonderful little gem. I mean, Spring Lake is it's deep in the hearts of many people, and many people care deeply about it. So again, just want to clarify, the request is not to never allow any or have any development or annexation. It's just for now to pause while we come up with a better study and a more specific plan that is for that area. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe a couple others. So no more duck comments, please. Okay.
That should be your house, sitting on your lawn.
I have deer on my lawn.
Greg Calloway again. I'm pretty concerned about the road. Shows he's got 2 egresses going on to 12,240 south. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That road's a dead end road, has been for years. And now we're going to open it up to, 300-400 trips up and down that road a day. I have a hard time backing out of my driveway now. There's always 3 or 4 cars a day going by. But it's like Jason said, I was on a committee to make Spring Lake a township. We got everything done, and then we backed out at the very last minute possible as we went over to the county to meet. And Governor Herbert at the time was on the county commission, and his pretty close to his exact words, this was a few years ago, I'm getting older, but he says Spring Lake is the best kept secret in all of Utah. And if he could do anything to keep it that way and not let no more building go on there except for family members, he says, I would push that through the county commission right now. And, he says, but Foresight, you guys have got to stay on your toes, because pretty soon there's going to be a road. One side's going to be Payson, one side's going to be Santa Quinn. Santa Quinn tried it and found out what was going on. They locked us out of meetings for like 2 months, wouldn't even meet with us. And I'm glad Payson City is at least letting us talk. But I agree with Jason. We need to take time and look at this and not just throw a bunch of houses in there, And he was saying that It's 22,000 square foot to build in the county.
20,000.
20,000. That road has been 5.25 acres. They just changed it to 2. That's 87,000 square foot per house. So unless they've changed it again in the last 3 months.
Chris can answer that.
That's all I got to say.
So the 20,000 square foot is only in platted subdivisions. Otherwise it is 5.25. So.
All right, my name is Cole Christofferson. I actually live on 12600 South, so farther south of the development. But the biggest thing is, I know Mr. McNeil is here to make money. And I mean, I bought my house, I'm a young man. I grew up in Helper. The whole thing that brought me to Spring Lake, I waited years to get in there, was that small town feel, not to have someone come in and make money off of the view. And I agree with his statement on the road. I've got 6 kids and, they've always been able to walk around. You open up a road like that and you're going to kill someone. I mean, plain and simple, that's what's going to happen, because you get teenagers flying through there. You get young drivers. You get these moms in a hurry. I mean, everyone's been in subdivisions. There's a different feel. It's bound to have an accident. So, ask yourself, if this was your house, your kids, would you want this coming in? And as Mr. Knapp said, we know growth is inevitable. It's going to happen, but there's a right and a wrong way to do it. And, I agree with them that, you can meet his demands as well. Yeah, he owns the property. He wants to make profit off of it, but you can also, look at Alpine, massive homes, 5-acre lots, lots of money. So, if that's what you're proposing, push those acreage to these big lots. Less traffic, more responsibility, a safer place for our community, not as big impact on the lake itself. And really, the people that have lived there and developed this for his profit, respect our opinions on it too. Take a look at that and say, yeah, you're going to make all this money, but we're the ones that developed this community, Phil. We've developed, you have 1,250 signatures on that. There's a good vibe around our lake and around our community. So just when you think about that, just respect our, opinions, because really this small community is what's driving that factor of wanting to develop out there as well. So that's, aside from that, like the other questions is, all this money is going to go to Payson. We're county, how is it benefiting us so much? It's going to be your tax dollars, your money. It's just hard. We're not the same utilities. How is this all going to play into us? Are we going to have to tie into your system? Is that going to cost us money? Property taxes are going to go up. So it's just a hard pill to swallow on really how this is benefiting us. When we took the time, we spent the money, we made those decisions to move out there. We've sacrificed all of those things. And those are the things that need to be considered when this decision is being made. So that's all I have to say on it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
I'll be cool.
One more.
I won't swear.
I'm Kelly Warner.
Okay.
I've just got a question. Is there any way that you can recommend we get like a Spring Lake committee to deal with Payson with you guys and McNabb, so we can have some say in this? I know he's the property owner, but we live there day in and day out. We love our community. And you start putting all these houses in, and we might as well move to Salt Lake. But is there any way you can recommend we get a committee together to deal with this or have input?
Okay. Thank you for your comments.
Never sworn.
All right. I have a general feel of what we're listening to here. So let's have a little discussion with the commissioners.
My thoughts basically are, as the housing has been growing towards Spring Lake.
Your mic on?
Mic on? As the housing's been moving towards Spring Lake, it's I have a friend that lives out there, and for years he's saying I can hear the nail guns are coming, and it's not a good feeling, But I think that as the housing is ended out there and as we annex in, we need to look at a little better planning for that whole area right there, because there's that whole swath from the highway back through there that sometime is probably going to be asked to be developed. And personal opinion would be is I would probably be in agreement with a lot of this group right here that we need to do some planning on what type of lots do we use as we move into the opener spaces out there. So
yeah. Chris or Jill, can you tell me where our proposed annexation boundary is for the cities?
You want me just to rattle off the legal description?
No, I want to know how far south we're planning on our.
No. 12,400.
Is it, Jill, would you come tell me, please? Just so I know. I can't remember. And I couldn't pull up the map because my machine was not well.
Well, and there's also been some changes. So it's a great question. And so every city, just for the benefit of the public. So every city that wants to grow and to annex, we have to have what's called an annexation policy plan. So that's a requirement of state code, is we have to identify where it doesn't say when, it doesn't say timing. City council gets to decide the timing, but we have to show any area that we anticipate would be part of our community someday. And so when you're mentioning the annexation area, so, we've had to work very closely with some of our neighboring communities. The South Utah counties are getting closer and closer to each other as we annex. So we had to work with Elk Ridge and Salem and Spanish Fork and Santaquin on where those boundaries are. On the south side, we do show to the High Line. I know somebody had mentioned that the High Line Canal on the east side of SR 198. There has been recently a change. The City Council, Payson City Council and Santaquin City Council within the last year has made some adjustments to where that southern boundary is west of SR 198 and west of Interstate 15. And that is 12,400 south. So east of SR 198 goes all the way to the Highline Canal. Actually, and there's even been some discussion about maybe some of the properties like Westwoods and those that are just right above the Highline Canal, that they would be part of the Payson community. And then again, to the west, it would be 12,400. So that has changed a little bit. So I want to take the opportunity to mention that. But in this particular area that many of you are talking about, it goes to the Highline Canal. Yes. Oh, and then also as part of that. So as part of our general plan and with that annexation policy plan, so you have the timing issue. And so with that, that is where part of the annexation policy plan and part of looking at each of these annexations also is the timing. As part of our annexation plan, we also looked at looking at it from a land use perspective, a logical growth perspective, also providing municipal services, because that is a responsibility of the city once we annex property. And so we also look at, general timeframes too, when we anticipate that. That being said, a lot of that is driven by property owners. The annexation process is very much driven by landowners and property owners. So anyway, so there is that timing element as well. And I think Chris had mentioned that also in the presentation, is you have an annexation policy plan that says, once again, this is the area that'll be part of Payson one day, but there are a lot of factors and a lot of things that are considered to determine the timing of that. Does that address? Okay.
Thank you. You answered my question. So Other discussion from commissioners?
Personally, I lean towards what Kit was saying, like maybe a larger transition area rather than a little like less density in this transition between Payson and Spring Lake.
Okay.
So one of my concerns is we have a lot of property owners in the Spring Lake area here, which I'm guessing most of you would be opposed to selling your property to subdivide. And so for a developer to be able to obtain a very large parcel to develop, to create a plan, I mean, I don't know when you'd be looking at, if ever, selling your property. So if we make a plan now, not knowing when property is going to annex or when it's going to transition, how much time and effort do we put into that, knowing that that property could sit there for 30 or 40 years. And the plan that we make now or spend time and effort into developing now becomes obsolete before it ever has a chance to come to fruition. So.
Yeah, let's take the microphone to him so he doesn't have to hobble over.
But while we're waiting, you know, like I said, one of my concerns there also is lately we've been seeing as developers are acquiring chunks of county here. You know, they come in and we're getting requests for a 10-acre annexation here, an 11-acre annexation there. You know, and it's kind of hard to plan the city's utilities, everything else that goes around that, because okay, we're going to stuff a subdivision up here. Then 5 years from now, we're going to put another one down here, and all of a sudden we just got a hodgepodge piece going on there.
Well, and there has to be some planning to take care of that. So, but we can't go back to the, at least in my opinion, we can't go back to you got to have 300 acres to annex. That ain't going to happen.
I wouldn't get 300 acres in this area to annex.
Yeah. So that, you know, that has been something that has happened in the past. That was the plan. You had to have 300 acres to annex, and that's not today's world. So, okay.
If I could.
No, we need it for the recording.
How about now?
Yeah,
okay,
it works.
With regard to the comment about how long it might be till future property would potentially be annexed in, you do have a point that there are certainly a number of families and individuals out there who have no intention of being annexed in any time in the near future. But there are also a lot of individuals who are, how do I put this delicately, advanced in age, where there will be succession that will happen. And certainly that is anticipated with some of them. I mentioned that I personally have land in that area. I have 14 acres right there, and you know, I'd love to be able to annex some, and at some point let my kids have a little bit. So I think that there will be continued pressure. I understand your point that the whole area may not come in a one big swath, but I think that's all the more reason why we need a plan, so that as pieces do come in and as individual property owners do want to sell or want to potentially develop, that there is a cohesive plan. So I think that now is the time before these little pieces are annexed in or developed, and we don't have the ability to create the plan for the area that with the open contiguous land up into the foothills and the trails and things that might be beneficial to the area. So I think there is no, other than maybe 10 years ago, there's no better time than right now to do this plan. We need it now.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe I'd weigh in for a minute, Chairman.
Push on the bottom. Oh.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you, Blair.
Okay, I just want to weigh in on a couple of things. There may be some in the public who aren't aware of some of the references that have been made tonight. Payson City has developed area-specific plans in several areas. The east side is one that was referenced, and it covers a lot of the area between Payson and Salem and Elk Ridge. And that's the one where we kind of made a mistake, and originally approved some terms there that said it had to be at least 300 acres when it was annexed in. And we quickly found out that's not a workable way to manage one. We've also had an area around the temple that we have planned. And the first agenda item that we talked about there tonight was a result of that plan. And originally the applicant came in and wanted to bring the whole parcel in, but according to that plan, only part of the area could be developed at the density that they were requesting. And so they had to go back and make some changes. So the plans are really a good thing. They are functional. And I think it would be great for us to have a area specific plan for Spring Lake that would be put together. The drawback perhaps is that it takes time. We can't do those overnight. They take a while to work out, but they're full of citizen input. And we've done it with people who at the time were not inside the city limits of Payson, but they did come and did participate and did help us put the plans together for those areas. And we feel like we've come away through that process with a pretty good result where they felt heard, and the development that will happen there will be in the interests of the city and compatible with the utilities and the other things which have to be taken into consideration. So I'm leaning to push us toward creating a Spring Lake specific area plan.
Okay, thank you, Blair. Is it Callaway? Okay, push on the bottom. It's not.
This is probably not going to make very many people happy. Why don't you just annex the whole thing like you're going to right now? Get a little group from Spring Lake to help oversee this. Let Payson City annex it. Leave our hunting privileges and stuff like that alone until the development does come. You guys want to annex a little bit at a time, take the whole chunk.
The way an annexation works is that whatever property owners are in that annexation, a majority of them have to sign off on it. And it really wouldn't work to say, okay, we're going to annex 700 acres here and there's 1,200 property owners and we get 7 that say that that's okay. It just ain't going to happen. So, and an annexation is driven by, unless the city needs the land for some purpose, an annexation is driven by the property owners. So.
I was on a committee one time helping Payson City years ago doing a map for this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, by then it probably changed 30 times.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Other commission comments. Again, we are a recommending authority to the city council is all. We just have the opportunity to say what our thoughts are and tell the city council something. So, and we do have a couple of council members either online or in the room here too. So they'll hear it firsthand. Other thoughts? Yes, Robert, you can.
Let me just make one comment here. Robert Mills, Development Services Director. I forgot who I am.
Yeah. It's the computer. It's messed you up tonight.
Just messed me up so much. I could go into a whole book about that. I would just say that if your recommendation is leaning towards the idea of creating an area specific plan, definitely a great idea. Very, very good. I appreciate what Commissioner Warner just said about the timing of that, because that is going to take some time. Whether
at least probably a year.
Whether that's done in-house or whether that's done through a consultant or whatever, that's going to take some time. So if that is the decision, or if that's your recommendation, kind of leaning towards that, it may be, rather than leaving the applicant in limbo, that an actual recommendation of denial, so he can still move on in his process if he wants to. I don't want the situation that he's just in limbo for such a long period of time, not playing favorites or anything like that. It's just the planning effort is really, really good. That's really, really important. And I just don't want to I don't want the situation where he's feeling like, well, is it going to go one way or the other? I think it's important to provide really good, concrete decisions to everybody involved. The community members need to know that and have that assurance. Applicants need to know that and have assurance. Staff needs to know that and have that assurance. So whatever your decision is, my recommendation is just don't leave it in a situation where we're going to leave this open until all the planning is done and then come back and revisit it. Let it actually be a decision.
Okay,
thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments from commissioners? And remember that at least in more along what Robert just said, there is that about 70% of the land the applicant controls on this area is already annexed into the city. And it's annexed, it's in a holding zone right now, but it's annexed into the city. It's already part of the city. So he's just for the overall project. For the overall project, yes. Our consideration is for 9.5 acres, 9 1/3 acres, but he already has 70% of the overall project annexed into the city. So anybody want to make a stab at a recommendation? How about you, Blair? Do you want to make a stab at it?
No, should have been quiet, shouldn't I? All right, let me think about how I would do this. I think what I would propose, make a motion, Mr. Chairman, is that we recommend approval of the annexation with the stipulation that the city council direct staff to put together an area specific plan for the Spring Lake area. Recognizing that this particular parcel is on the edge of the city right now and does not commit us to too great a deal to change the entire complexion of the Spring Lake area at this time, and finding that we would have time for future annexation proposals to get the specific plan together and be able to work through that.
Okay, I have a recommendation in a motion. Do I have a second to that?
Second.
I have a second to that. All in favor by yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed.
No.
Motion carries. That'll be the recommendation to the city council. That meeting will be March 2nd. And they will make the final decision. Are we allowed to attend that? Yeah, absolutely. I don't know whether it's a public hearing or not.
Let me do some clarification. So the official action by the city council will be on the March 2nd meeting. That's where the city council is going to hold a public hearing, and you'll be invited. Anyone who wants to can come and participate in that. Next week, the city council is holding a work session. I don't know, work sessions are generally just a time for the council. It's a it's an open meeting, but generally the city council just takes the time to really dive in to questions and things like that. Public comments are generally not taken at those, but you're welcome to come listen and hear how the council is working through the different questions that they might have and things like that. But the March 2nd meeting is the actual meeting where they'll be discussing the item and then most likely making a decision. Yes.
Next Wednesday, will they be discussing Spring Lake?
Yes.
Yes. That.
6 p.m.
Yes.
When's the work session start?
Does the work session start at 6 or does it start at 5?
I don't know if they have decided what, it hasn't been set yet. So
at least meeting, 2 days before.
My guess is that the meeting agenda has been set to start at 6 o'clock and the work session is probably.
I actually saw a notice. I think it was 6 o'clock. I think it is noticed already at 6 o'clock.
And then the work session is probably going to be the last item. I know that they have some items that are, it's a pretty light agenda. That's why we wanted to make sure and have this opportunity. My guess is it will be at the end.
It will be on PaysonUtah.org website.
Yeah, it will be on Zoom.
It says, hang on just a second. I actually have it right here.
That's
March 2nd, 6 p.m.
The work session.
And it says, that's March 2nd. No, it doesn't say. I'm sorry. I thought it did, but it didn't.
So the agenda for next week is going to be updated to add that work session item. Yes.
Will our petition be discussed at that time as well, or is the petition dead?
Now, the petition is still part of the packet materials that the city council is going to be considering as well.
And that will be next week as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, Chris has some clarification.
Chris has something to say.
This is just one more thing for everybody in the audience. If you have other written comments that you would like to be included in the packet, please submit them to me directly, chrisv@payson.org, and I will get those into the packet for you. Chris V as in Victor @payson.org is my email address. We'll get those put in there.
And thank you everyone for coming tonight. We usually don't have this large of a group. There's usually us and one other. And we thank you for being here and being very cordial. We appreciate it. Thank you. You're welcome to stay for the last little bit of it as well, but you don't have to. We don't know. We'd have to ask staff.
Yeah, you'd have to talk to
staff. Would know. Again, we don't have
They can't subdivide without proper dedication of water.
That's right. They got to have water when they come in.
I think Blair did a beautiful job of phrasing that.
If you could hurry and leave, and if you're going to have discussions, have them out in the hall because we need to finish up with what we're doing. Yes, that was yes. That's why I wanted him to do it. By the way, that's exactly what I wanted.
They're fine open. You're good.
Would you like these doors shut? No.
As long as you're not too noisy, we're fine.
Leave them open.
Commission and staff reports and any training is our next to last item.
I think you've had
enough. Any commissioner items or questions for staff? Okay, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Anybody opposed?
I'm in favor of that.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, I do.
I like that motion.